So my father left when I was around 5 years old. Yeah, I've done a lot of work on that and I've processed a lot, and I'm grateful to be able to be in a position where I can talk about it. As I'm sure many people know, and I'm not just the only person this happens to in the world, there's many people that their parents leave for whatever reasons. It has a scarring effect on a child, especially that young, because we're very impressionable. We're also children, so we don't know complex matters like, you know, relationships breaking down and people leaving, and we tend to blame ourselves, and that's exactly what I did when I was younger. Is I blamed myself for my dad leaving, even though it's completely ridiculous to assume that. As a child, that's the kind of only thesis that you come up with, is that what have I done wrong for my parents to leave?
There's one thing that you really want to say to the people who made it this far.
Listen to every podcast, because this has been a really great experience. It's been really amazing getting to know you as well. For me, it's just stay true to who you are, and you'll be surprised at the amount of abundance that you will get back. Stay grateful, always operate with humility, don't ever think you're better than anyone else, and just go and enjoy life. You know, we have such a short time on this world. Just go out there and enjoy it. Like, just have some fucking fun. If there's anything that's holding you back, just find those limiting beliefs, smash through them, get yourself training, get up off the sofa, go and do some cool shit, go and make some stories, go and make some memories, and just go have fun with it.
Money does not come by default. And Ash is the person who experienced it through thick and thin, from the highs to the lows. Now building up to a man with lots of resilience to it. But such a journey comes at a cost. What price are you actually willing to pay to become the man that you want to be? We will dive in to this story through thick and thin, now being in Bali, traveling and doing what you actually like, and everything that you'll learn along the way in this whole journey.
Yes, we will.
Let's dive into it, because one key point, you have a lot of hunger.
Yes.
That's what we saw in the conversation we had up front, that we met through Run Club. Mm-hmm. And also there, like, you're the one who wants to be in the front.
For sure. Always.
Always. And you're the one who is always there to push forward, to go through it. But that hunger, some people are not really born with that. For you, there was one key point that we talked about up front.
Yes.
That created that hunger. And that's that your dad left when you were a kid, right?
He did, yeah. So my father left when I was around 5 years old. Yeah, I've done a lot of work on that, and I've processed a lot, and I'm grateful to be able to be in a position where I can talk about it. But as I'm sure many people know, and I'm not just the only person this happens to in the world, there's many people that their parents leave for whatever reasons. It has a scarring effect on a child, especially that young, because we're very impressionable. We're also children, so we don't know complex matters like, you know, relationships breaking down and people leaving, and we tend to blame ourselves, and that's exactly what I did when I was younger. Is I blamed myself for my dad leaving, even though it's completely ridiculous to assume that. As a child, that's the kind of only thesis that you come up with, is that what have I done wrong for my parents to leave?
What impact did it have on your childhood?
I don't think it impacted my childhood per se. I had a great childhood. My mum is an amazing woman, and she raised me and my sister single-handedly, and she's done a fantastic job, and I am honoured to be her son. But I think that the problems or the impact that it had was actually more in my later life. So as a child, I had a great childhood. I was very loved by my family. I was, you know, never left wanting anything. I was always well cared for and had beautiful experiences, and also was very grateful to have other father figures in my life during my childhood. But the effect was more of like a knock-on effect when I got into my teenage years. That's when it started showing up.
What do you mean by that?
So I think that the first time I was really shown this this deep emotional wound was when I first started drinking alcohol and first started partying, and as you do as a child, or that's 16, 17, 18 years old, you drink alcohol and it messes you with your emotions. I think we can all agree here that alcohol is a very damaging drug, but obviously it's used recreationally around the world, and I've had some amazing times. But when all those things start coming out, the not feeling good enough and not, being abandoned, and that pain that has been put down and buried deep inside me for so long, it was all able to come out because of that expression from the catalyst being alcohol. It was always there, but I never really noticed it. And then moving on from being a child into an early adult, when you start having relationship with women, you start becoming a man, or a woman as well, if you're also going through the same thing, you find that these deep emotional traumas present themselves in different aspects of your life. So whether it be in business, or whether it be in relating with the opposite sex, relationships, partnerships, even relationships with your parents, like that can also show up. But fortunately, I had an incredible relationship with my mother, and I still do. So that's where it kind of started for me, is like the partying side when I was younger. That's where it, like, if we're going to use an analogy, is where the dam was full, and that's where the dam started getting holes in, is when I started drinking and started going out and partying. And then throughout my life, even up till now, really, I still see moments in which those deep traumas have been embedded and show up. And I think,
like what?
My relationships, I self-sabotage, I have a fear of abandonment, or had a fear of abandonment, trust issues, all sorts. I mean, it shows up in different ways all the time. It's just our job to be able to process those and work through them and make sure they don't show up again in whatever it is you do, relationships, business, every aspect of life.
Yeah, and then that abandonment that resonated in aspects of your life later on, from the moment you started drinking alcohol as a teenager, and now also in your adult life, in the relationships that you have, in business, what are some things that you experienced where you recognized those past traumas, where you experienced it firsthand again?
I would say definitely relationships was a big one for me, because I grew up only ever knowing arguments, and I would always believe that when someone has an argument with their significant other, that's it. They scream, shout, and it ends, because as a child, that's all I, witnessed. That was my programming. So when I enter into relationships with women, when we have a discussion or an argument that as many people do, and I think it's healthy to have discussions and also some arguments and debates, it doesn't mean that the relationship is over. It doesn't mean that it's done, they're going to leave and that's it, you're left alone. So that's where it shows up for me, is that abandonment of, if my dad can leave me, then anyone can, because my dad was someone who created me. So anyone else is a not to speak bad, but like a lesser connection. And why would they stay if they have no, if the person who created me doesn't want to stay, then how is anyone else going to want to stay in my life? And it's a very warped sense of thinking, but it's, as a child, that's the kind of thing that you make sense of.
And then at some point, you started in sales.
Yes, started in sales when I was around 17.
2011?
Yes. Started in around 2011, so just come out of school into college. Really loved nightlife, really loved partying. I was actually taken when I was 16 to a bar that you had to be 18 to go in, and obviously we got in with the guys that we were with, and at that time I was one of one of the only people in my circle that was experiencing that sort of thing, and just fell in love with the whole atmosphere. As you do, the love of clubbing and the love of meeting people and drinking and socializing. And I've always been someone that's very social, and I can connect with pretty much anyone. So for me, it was like the big leagues of networking, the big leagues of socializing. So quickly fell in love with that kind of industry, and got a job at a nightclub as a promoter, so handing leaflets outside, getting people into the clubs, and just really hit the ground running with that, and came into this place. It was a road with about 10 bars on it. Each had their own promoters outside, and there was always a bit of healthy competition who could get the most people into their club. And I turned up, this 17-year-old, full of enthusiasm, and just, already knowing that I wasn't meant to be there because you had to be 18 to work in the clubs. And I just wanted to prove myself, and I came in with a huge character, huge energy, and just did really well, and made the bar really, really busy all the time, and picked up the notice of a lot of the other promoters, and they were like, who the hell is this guy, and what is he doing down here?
What did you do that made you stand out?
Just being able to speak to anyone. I had this almost a passion just to be able to know about people and know about their story and connect with them. So for me, meeting people as a job was perfect, because I'm kind of doing the same thing and I'm getting paid for it. So I would speak to anyone, and I'd built up a very big resilience to rejection. So it didn't matter, whether these people didn't want to come in the club. I'd still go and speak to them, and you'd still also have that challenge of being able to change people's minds and bring them into a club that not really anyone wanted to go in, but we had cheap drinks. So that's where the challenge for me is to prove myself that I was, better than all these people down here at doing what I do.
And that also resonated in the hunger that
came
from the childhood trauma in that way.
Always wanting to prove to not only other people, but I think ultimately to prove to myself that I am worthy of something. I'm worthy of love. I'm worthy of, whatever it is I set out to go and do, and I am enough. And I kind of started off, if I'm the best, then no one will want to leave. But as I've got older and as I've matured, I realized that you don't have to be the best. I love being the best, and I love aiming to be the best. But I also understand that there's times not to be, and there's times to sit back, and finding that balance is a beautiful thing to learn.
But at that certain time, you were that energetic, hungry child.
Of course.
Who just got everyone into the club. What are the things that you learned during those club promoting times that you still use?
I think for me, it's the ability to just speak to anyone, the ability to go up and talk to anyone at all, which you don't really see nowadays. I mean, Bali, everyone's quite open, but most other places in the world, everyone kind of keeps to themselves, and they don't really converse with one another. And you get it if you sit on a bus or a train, or nobody really speaks to one another. Whereas I'd happily just get up and speak to the whole carriage, as long as I'm not standing up and doing something stupid. But if there's an organic start to a conversation, you can get the whole bus talking, or you can get the whole train talking. So, and it brings me joy to see people enjoying conversation that they would never normally have, and it's something different out of their day. And that makes me happy, because it kind of drags other people out of their comfort zone, and they sort of realize, it's not such a horrible place. It's the unknown is actually quite a good place if you face it and tackle it with a good head on your shoulders.
So then at 17 years old, when you were a club promoter, you were there, really high energy, wanting to prove yourself, learned how to talk to people, learned how to break barriers and how to get people into a shitty bar with cheap drinks. Mm-hmm. But at some point that bar closed down, right? The bar closed down, and I was actually fortunate enough to have got the notice of the bar opposite, which was actually an even worse bar. But they approached me and they said, look, we love your energy. We'd love for you to be part of the team. So can you join? I said, yeah, of course. They were like, are you 18? I said, of course.
Definitely wasn't. So I had about a year until I was 18. I got away with it for about 9 months, and then they found out. Really worried that I was gonna, cause a load of problems and lose my job. But they pulled me aside and they said, if you weren't so good at your job, we'd have got rid of you. But you're an asset to the team, and we love having you here. So we'll keep you here under the rules that you don't go behind the bar. Perfect. So finished that. Became 18 and stayed at that bar for a little while longer. And yeah, I learned so much in that bar, because it's easy to sell something when it's something that everyone wants, but it's a lot harder to sell something when nobody wants it. And I think that's where I really crafted my skill of being able to sell things to people that just didn't want to go into that bar, even though the drinks were ridiculously cheap. It was a disgusting dive bar, and I'm sure if anyone listens to this that worked in that place, they'll remember. It was an amazing place, and the people that worked there are amazing, and I've still speak to them every now and then now. But no one wanted to go in there. It was just seen as such an awful bar, and it had such a bad reputation, but that just made it all the more fun when we filled it.
How did you do it?
How did I fill the bar?
Yeah.
Just coming in with this, with this personality, and when you work with a great group of people as well, that collective personality and that collective energy that you bring, it magnetizes people. It magnetizes people to say, oh, well, I want to join in on that. I want a bit of that energy, So I think it was a collective of, my energy, and would then inspire others to do the same. And also the guys that I worked with were very similar to me. So we had like a three-way energy, and that just amplified. And I think people were just drawn to it. So they just found themselves wanting to go into the bar, even if it was for one drink. They'd go in, but we'd still have a queue outside, and these people, all the other promoters, would be like, how the hell are you doing this? Like, this bar is the worst. And we're just taking everyone's customers. And it was just such a great experience to live.
Because it was in England, right?
It was in England, yeah, in Portsmouth, in Guildhall Road, one of the most dangerous roads in the UK, for about 11 or 12 years, I think. So
what are some really weird things, or really some things you've experienced there that not that many people can say?
So I worked for the bar, the Fuzzy Duck, and they actually had a strip club above it called Heaven Sent. So usually Portsmouth is a naval city, so you get a lot of naval ships from America, all over the world. They come and dock there. So then you have one time, I think in a year, you have this huge American naval ship come down, and it's like 4,000 or 5,000 sailors from the US. So, US strip clubs are quite big over there, so there's not that many in the UK, or there wasn't at that time. So one of the main places that they would go would be to the strip club. Now, all these guys love a drink, and they like to get a little bit rowdy. So one time there was a big fight in the strip club, and it erupted out to the street, and then you had about 30 doormen from all over the other clubs, just a massive 50, 60, 70 man brawl. So it was quite an experience to go and watch that, because I don't think many people have seen 70 people fighting in the street before. But most of my stories of that time are kind of revolved around the fighting, the part of it, because you get drunk people, and you get a lot of big characters down there, a lot of alcohol intake, and a lot of doormen that love scrapping. So yeah, a lot of the stories I have are mainly fights, but that one was the one that stuck out, just to watch, all of these doormen pinning people left, right and centre. You got people throwing bottles, you got all sorts, you got the strippers downstairs screaming, Yeah, it was just a crazy, chaotic hour or so. But yeah, it was one that stuck in my mind.
How did you experience that as a 17-year-old then, or 18?
I was 18 at the time, and whilst I don't enjoy fighting, it was obviously like the best thing in the world. I'm like, what the hell is going on? This is great.
Before UFC was big, you just experienced it.
Exactly,
right there.
Man. Yeah, you saw the live UFC. So yeah, it was definitely an experience for sure.
And then at some point you did club promoting for over 6 years. Like you kept on doing it, even though at some point you finished college, You did not want to go to university, right?
Yeah, I wanted to be a surgeon. More so the fact I had a school teacher who was more like a father figure to me, and I was kind of pressed to go into the science medicine side of things. And my parents were also, my mum, my grandparents were sort of pushing me slightly towards going towards that. And you know, that I felt like I had to prove something to them, and I had to do something that would make them proud. It wasn't really what aligned with me, and then I quickly found that out when I discovered drinking and partying in college, and then didn't go to university, ended up leaving college with some bad grades and stuck with the promoting as the job. And after a while I realized I need to get myself a proper job, so I ended up getting a job in sales for a tech company. And yeah, worked there for, I think it was like a year and a half, I think. Did really, really well. Became one of the youngest guys to sell the most amount of stuff to other businesses, and got an award. And then I remember, yeah, just one day just being like looking around and seeing all these guys that have been there for 5, 10, 15 years, and just thought no amount of money is gonna make me happy being here.
And that was in 2013. So after 2011, so you're already been like 2 years of promoting sales activities, sales jobs.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the key lessons that you learned in the B2B sales there that complemented your sales ability in the club promoting?
I think being able to distinguish between business to business sales is very professional, and your clubbing promotion is very casual, you know, as if me and you were just talking and going for a drink. And if you're speaking to a business sale, it's very professional, you know, you have to kind of adopt a different demeanor when it comes to speaking to them. So I guess it complements it because it gives me the ability to switch between the two, you know, and read those people. And I think it really helps with being able to read and understand people and read their, you know, how they are, how they speak, find out about what they like, and tailor my sales pitch towards that. And I think that's very complimentary, because it's not just, I can't go in and have a business to business sales call when I'm speaking like a club promoter, you know. And also,
how would that go?
Awfully, you know, I'd be hung up on within the first 5 seconds. So yeah, it's complementary because they complement each other, and they also help one another, because whilst I can have a casual conversation and also sell stuff, I can have a professional conversation, but I can also dip in between the two. You know, you're never really always in one. You know, if you find a common ground with someone, whether it be business to business, and you get on, this person's going to slip out of their business, you know, demeanor, and you're going to have a little bit of a laugh, you know. And I think that's really good, because it kind of lowers people's guards. And you know, in business, a lot of people have their guards up because they're always worried about, oh, what you're going to sell me, who are you? Whereas if you're connecting over something, you know, whether it be what I found in the tech was a lot of gaming. So when you've got someone speaking to them about gaming, which is not what they usually get with people, or you kind of get people that do it, but they only do it because they know that these people love games. Whereas if you've got someone who is an actual gamer, and you start speaking about stuff that they're not used to being spoken to by a professional, they break character, and they instantly, you know, their guard sort of crumbles, and you find common ground with them. They're much more receptive to even getting to the next part of, you know, booking a appointment, or, you know, you have that connection that you don't just get from someone cold calling them and saying, hey, how's your day? I hear you like computer games. Do you want to buy this?
Yeah. So in the end, people buy from people.
Exactly.
And you learned how to manage different types of languages through the club promoting and the B2B sales.
Yeah.
And how to weave those into each other in a way that made you authentic in the way you sell.
Exactly. It's a different approach, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that do it, but I think that a lot of people do the sales jobs because they love the money, and they do the sales. It's like, I just love connecting with people, so the money is a bonus, or was a bonus. And I think if you do it as authentically as you can, you know, you're always going to attract the right people, and you're always going to also maybe soften other people up, because it's not what they're used to. It's not like such a direct approach. It's more carefully articulated, and it's also at the same time I'm just being me, so it's not really, it's kind of effortless.
And it helped that you made reps.
I hope that made what, sorry?
That you made the reps.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you already had in a lot of hours, talked already to a lot of people, and in that way, like even from my personal experience, talked to a shit ton of people when it comes to sales conversations. The first sales conversation is always kind of stiff.
Oh, it's awful.
That you do?
Awful, man. The first conversation that you have when you're cold calling people, you're like blah 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 on the phone, and it's awful. But it's just repetition, and the more you do as well, not only repeating it helps you be more confident, is that you kind of understand that there's patterns in how people react and patterns in what they say, and you can get quite good at navigating not only what they're going to say but how you're going to react, and you kind of already know, you know, if they're saying a certain thing, you already can direct that conversation whichever way you want, because you understand that they're going to reply a certain way, and it's like because 500 people have already said the same thing. So you, not only do you know the direction of the call or the direction of the meeting, is that you've also practiced 500 different iterations of, okay, what works, what doesn't work, you know, what questions can I ask that prompt a better outcome. So it's all learning.
And managing that with adapting with someone's energy.
Exactly.
To create that common ground, to be on the same level, and in that way break the patterns that they're used of having, and fucking sell.
Exactly.
That's the point of a sales call in the end.
Exactly.
Right?
Like at the end of the day, it is there to sell. While it's like, you know, some people do sales because they don't particularly like people, or, you know, they just want to do the money, and that's great. Some people do really well at it, but I love human psychology, and I love you know, understanding how people think and why they do the things they do. And for me, like, connecting with people is an amazing thing to do. So that combined with sales is, yeah, it's kind of perfect.
And then after that pivot point in 2013, at the end of 2013, you got a new opportunity.
Yes, I was contacted by one of my old PR companies for nightclubs. They were running a holiday package week in Ibiza, and they asked me if I wanted to go along and help out, and I'd get a discounted ticket, and of course I agreed. Being a big music lover, and I love the music industry, Ibiza is the mecca of music, so, or it was at the time, and happily took that opportunity. Went there at the start of 2014. Yeah, did a week there, and as soon as I got there, I fell in love with the island and fell in love with the life over there. So came back and quit the job, and then headed over to Ibiza for my first summer in 2015.
And never left.
Never left until Bali. The end of until coming to Bali. So but yeah, it was an incredible start to my journey in Ibiza. It's a very special place to me, and it will always hold a special place in my heart. So yeah, that was the start of it. That was the beginning.
And there you started to meet people, but different people than you are used to meeting when you were club promoting in England.
Yes, I originally wanted to work in the clubs, but couldn't speak a word of Spanish, so ended up settling for a boat party ticket seller position. Would have to go out every day, 8 hours a day, getting paid no hourly, only commission, €5 a ticket. So it was long days, and I think I went over there with like €1,000. So money was running out, and I kind of needed to start earning some money. Did really well, really enjoyed it, but started meeting a load of people on the way who had villas, who had boats, who had private security, and after a while just kind of became the person that people would ask me for, Ash, you know that guy who's got a villa, or you know that guy who's got a boat, or I need to rent a car. So as the time went on, I became the person that people would come to and ask me for stuff. So I was like, there's a gap in the market here to make something. So decided to start a concierge company over there, and still runs to this day, which is great. I'm not in charge of it anymore. I'm away from it, but I still manage some clients. But yeah, it's been a great journey with that.
How do you start a concierge company? How do you do that? How does that work?
I guess it's just, being that kind of person that everyone starts to go to, like, for stuff, and then, you pass it on to clients, they pass it on to their friends, and next thing you know, you've got 2, 3, 4,000 clients that are coming to see you every year. So it's kind of like it was an organic growth, really, and I kind of fell into it. But yeah, I'm super happy that I did.
What are some things that you learned within that? Because it's really interesting. Not that many people will see, okay, I talked to this people, I talked to those people. Wait, I can connect the dots there.
Exactly, yeah.
What happened internally that you thought, I can connect the dots here? How did the process go?
It's hard to explain because for me it's quite a natural process because I love connecting people anyway. Like it's what I've done with sales is connecting people. Whether you're connecting people to the end user, the vendor, you're always connecting people together. So, and then with my work in the nightclub industry is all about who you know. So I quickly found that even to get jobs, it's not about what you know. It's about some experience, but also who you know. So becoming a connector and networking is kind of like the basis of everything that I do. So for me, it's a natural response is to connect people together. So I guess that's my process it just naturally happens. Like I understand that if you connect people together, magic happens.
And in that way provide value.
Exactly. And maybe it's maybe nothing becomes of the connection, or maybe you these people get into business together, or you end up selling something to someone, or the possibilities are pretty much endless, or maybe they know someone who they can connect with them with as well. So that initial connection is just worth doing because you never know what you're going to experience.
And at some point you had multiple connections. Mm-hmm. You connected all the dots. You stopped selling the boat tickets, of course, because you had enough network to connect people with people and that way provide value in the market. Mm-hmm. But at some point you sorted out yourself there. How did that process go? Because you were the one who was running everything. How do you distance yourself from such a business?
I read a book called The 4-Hour Work Week, which is talking about optimizing your time when it comes to working, and just the personal experience of the guy who wrote the book. I can't for the life of me remember his name, but it's a very popular book. It's just about removing yourself as the bottleneck, and I realized that I was the bottleneck because everyone was coming to me, and therefore my time was the one that was being taken up doing all of these things. So I needed to find a way to remove myself but keep the business running, and I ended up implementing some friends who pretty much know how I work, and they work very similar, and they were happy to do it. And yeah, that was kind of me removing myself from it and not having to be that bottleneck of trading my time for money.
How did you set up such workflows, or was it just purely trust? Purely trust,
yeah, purely trust. It's kind of hard to find people that are exactly or very, very similar to you when it comes to business, but there are people out there.
Did you get fucked over?
Have been fucked over in the past, yeah, for sure, but it's all a learning curve. You learn not to do it again. I think there's a fine line between trusting and not trusting, especially in Ibiza because it's full of pirates. We're all there to make money, and we're all there to, we're basically all there to earn money. So it's an interesting place to be because when money gets played into it, you see different sides of people. So there are people that are there to fuck you over. But as with anywhere in this world...
What are sides of people you experienced through that?
Just a lot of fake people, a lot of people that really just want to take something from you and don't want to give anything back. A lot of people that lie, a lot of people, that twist things and pretend to be a friend and then end up messing you around or fucking you over with money. It happens everywhere. It's more so in these concentrated areas like Ibiza and Bali. I imagine it happens quite a lot here. I've not been here long enough to know, but...
And how do you protect yourself from that in a way? Because you build a good way of finding the right people to sort yourself out of that business.
I guess it's just years of trial and error. You become very good at having a bullshit detector. So, if you've been in that long enough and you've been doing it long enough, you get very good at telling someone straight away their intentions. So, yeah, it's like always be nice and always treat people with respect, but, keep an eye out on what they're actually trying to get from you and kind of suss that out.
What are the things that you look at? Because you have a very sharp look in your eyes. Even when I'm looking at you and when you look at me, you're always in some kind of analyzing.
Yeah, I'm very, very
way
analytical. Like I said, I love psychology, so it's body language, and you know, one of the bigger things that I've also been guilty of in the past when I was younger is like not saying what you're, not doing what you're going to say. You know, taking action. Yeah, body language, just someone's general demeanor. You know, I do take into account what other people say, but again, it's not my personal experience, but it's something to take on board. Yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's hard to explain how you get good at reading people. It's just, I just find it interesting to see people's mannerisms and see how people think, and, you know, asking probing questions. And
How do you do that?
I don't know, it's kind of hard to tell you how I do it, because it's sort of a natural process to me. It's like I've done it for so long now. It's kind of like, you know, walking. It's just, you don't think, you just do.
And if you do, are there like certain particular behaviors that you do when you analyze someone, because you have the sharp look in your eyes? They say, okay, first I look at someone's eyes, or first I look at like what things do body language tell, and what are some really easy things that you can look at to read someone's body language a bit easier?
I think that the interesting things are little things like when you're maintaining eye contact with someone, if they're looking away quite a lot, you can tell they're quite nervous. So also how they position themselves, you know, if they're sat with their arms crossed, it means they're usually kind of confrontational. You know, the way they stand, if they're standing with confidence, if they're sort of shying away, little things that I've like read about in the past and you kind of implement. And you know, if you look at someone long enough, especially if someone's telling a lie and they're looking at you, they tend to look away. You know, they tend to avert their gaze, and they tend to, you know, look around the room, or, you know, get a little bit nervous, or, you know, twitch or something like that. It's like little things that you can pick up on. It's just, you can kind of gauge how someone is by the way they move, the way they position their hands, how they breathe, the way they talk, the confidence in their voice. It's all just an accumulation of things that gets you you know, maybe it's not 100%, but over time you get quite good at finding common patterns in people, because at the end of the day, we're all humans. We all have the same organs. We may all think differently, but we do have certain things that we have very similar, you know.
I think there are some really hidden gems in what you just said for everyone who is in in-person sales.
For sure, 100%. And obviously it's a little bit different when you're on the phone, but you know, you can tell by someone's voice, you know, you can tell by what they say, how they say it. It's, you know, you can adapt to where you are. Obviously, the best bit of advice from me, and I'm not saying that I'm a king of sales, but the best advice for me is to get meetings booked and get into the room of people, because you can just understand someone so much better than being on the phone. You know, because they have that layer of protection. You know, you're miles away on the phone, whereas if you're in person, they've got to face you face to face. So that's where you kind of see who someone really is when you're in the room with them.
That's really interesting, because like I used to have a big theater background before all of this happened, and became a guy who is in Bali right now. And I love dancing. Like I have a big passion for dancing, modern dancing, ballet, whatever. I love it. I just genuinely love it. And there's this really big dancer, I don't know who it is, and they have the saying, the body never lies.
For sure. For sure.
And it's really funny to connect the dots when it comes to human behavior and when it comes to the art of dancing, the art of expression, that the same sentence holds his grounds there when it comes to the body that never lies.
100%. I mean, that's also translatable to many things. I mean, we also use that in the Wildman business that I run, is the body never lies. You know, your physical shape and your physical performance, like your body's not going to lie to you. Your body, you know, you're going to know when you're either super exhausted, or you're also going to see progress. You're going to, you know, it's going to show you your progress if you're training consistently and training hard. It never lies. You know, you also, if you don't prepare for something and you don't train, then you're not going to be able to complete that challenge. Let's say, like if it's a physical challenge, because your body's going to give out.
And then there's one interesting part we can dive into, because when you did the Concierge business, when you lived in Ibiza, it's seasonal work.
It is.
So you experience like the really highs and the really low lows.
100%, and not just mainly seasonal, but Ibiza in itself is a very polarizing place. So you get the extreme highs amplified, which are completely euphoric. You feel on top of the world, you love life, and then you get these super, super lows, again amplified. This is the worst, I don't know what's going on, and such a roller coaster of emotions because you're always going between the two. You know, sometimes you'll have 7-8 months of great time, and then you'll have maybe 1-2 months of complete disaster. And yeah, it's just interesting to navigate that because I personally have gone through many highs and many lows in Ibiza. I've been very prone to, I don't want to use this word lightly, but a slight depression, not wanting to leave the house, and you know, not being motivated to do anything, having no drive. Yeah, the list is endless, but you know, I've been in that situation, and I've been in those dark places before, and it's, you know, sometimes it's difficult to pull yourself out of.
How do you deal with that? Or how do you dealt with it?
Do you know what the funny thing is, for me personally, is training, you know, and also the Wildman for me was kind of my savior for that, but you know, that's a little bit besides the point. But before I had Wildman, I just kind of got to the point where I was like, I'm fucking sick of being like this. You know, like one day you just have enough of feeling like shit, and then you kind of got to do something. So that's my personal experience anyway. I'm not saying that everyone's going to have that, but I just woke up like some days and I'm like, God, I've fucking had enough of being this pathetic, depressed person. Like, you know, there's so much more to live for than just sitting around and wasting my life doing this. So that would be the little kick up the arse to go and get going again, and I'd be back on track. But the main thing for me was joining the Wildman and then becoming co-founder of the Wildman.
And that's a bit later in the journey.
Yes.
So how did you dealt with it then?
How did I deal with it then? Like I said, it would just be like, I've had enough of this shit. I'm just going to get up and go to the gym. I don't want to do it, but I'm going to go and do it anyway. You know, and that was kind of my mechanism of getting out. And usually it was physical. You know, anything physical I'd get up and do, because I've always loved sports. I've always been a very competitive person, sports person, and also finding meditation and yoga helped. Back then it was sort of sporadic. I wouldn't do it, you know, I'd only ever do it when I was feeling like shit. But I mean, now I do it day in, day out. So it's like part of my morning routine is meditation and breath work. And, you know, yoga, I don't do it as much now, but yoga still plays a big part of my life as well. So yeah, it would just be, I'd just have a breaking point with myself. You know, I'd had enough of feeling that way, and I just didn't want to sit around anymore. I kind of got bored of feeling like shit.
I mean, it's valid, right?
Yeah, it's valid, and I mean, some people may never find that. Some people may never find that, you know. But it's just when you feel like that, is just get up and take action. It's just get up and do something. You know, whether it be a walk, whether it be something small. You know, complete a task, make your bed, do something very, very small. Because then once you have that small win, it's easier to get the other small wins. And then once you've done 10, 11 small wins in a day, you look back and you're like, wow, look how much I've done. You know, maybe it is just making your bed, cleaning your house, going to the gym for 30 minutes, calling your parents, you know, all these little things you can do, just stack up wins.
And what also really helps within that, like additional to it, I journal every night.
Journaling's a great thing as well.
I journal every night. And what I mostly do, because sometimes I just don't tune in, like, oh, I feel like this, or I have this in my mind, because sometimes there's just nothing. I just stack up the things that I did.
Exactly.
And sometimes you really felt like, I did not do that much today. And then you stack up the things that you actually did that day, and how you started the day, and the things like literally the action you took. And it's like, oh, I thought it was a bad day, but actually I did quite a lot though.
When you get it down on paper and you actually see it, because you know, it's one thing being up here, but if you get it out of your head and on paper and you actually see the results, like as humans, we like to see results, you know, especially men, we love to see results. So when you see the amount of stuff that you've done in a day and you see those accomplishments, it just really makes you feel so much better about yourself.
Yeah.
And also so much easier to accomplish more things.
So what are some of the challenges of course, like you have all those perspectives and knowledge and build up that resilience right now. But what are some of the challenges that you experienced during the highs, during the lows, while getting yourself out of the concierge business before you moved on to a new project that we're going to dive into in a bit?
I guess the challenges that I faced were actually brought upon by myself, because when you're operating in that negative frequency of energy, you attract shit. We are all energy. If you're in a positive frequency and you're happy and you're abundant, you're grateful, and you're operating in these like higher levels of frequencies, you attract more. You attract back in abundance of whatever it is. So again, if you're operating in this place of sadness, depression, anger, all of these negative lower vibration frequencies, you're going to attract back more of the same. So many challenges. I had stuff stolen, I had lots of things, loss of money, people stealing, business deals going down the drain, car breaking down, all the things that you could just be like, oh, it could be luck. But you find that they happen more so when you're in that negative spiral, because you're attracting more. You're attracting more negative.
Then probably when you're in a more positive spiral, a new project came along in 2020.
Yeah, so
Crypto.
I joined crypto in 2020. I actually joined in 2017, but I joined onto a crypto project in 2020, which is for the use of psychedelic assisted therapy. So it's the use of magic mushrooms, primarily psilocybin mushrooms, for psychedelic assisted therapy, which is a really, really great project, and they're still active today. So I've been in that since 2020. I mean, I don't own it or anything. I've just been a big investor in it. And then, that's kind of my little journey into crypto, and then, learned loads of other stuff and took it more as a hobby, and also been really, really grateful to be able to be brought on as a business development director in a crypto company over here in Bali, which is really exciting. But I think that's a little bit further ahead on our schedule.
That's fine. But so in 2020, how did you get in contact with those guys though?
Because I'd been in crypto in 2017, the NFT boom kind of happened, and I was passed on to this project because there was a big hype around it. And just joined into it, and then I'd stayed in there ever since, met loads of amazing people around the world that we still chat regularly. That's my journey into that, really.
Just as with the concierge business, it floated in a way just in your path and in the journey. Yeah, I'm open to experiences, and it just it felt right to be in that, and it felt right to go along with it. So best thing to do is just flow like water and just see where it takes you. And that water also floats you a bit forward, 2022, to Wildman. Wildman, yes. Yeah, probably one of my most important endeavors and also life-changing experiences is Wildman. So I met Callum and Craig, the two original founders of Wildman. I met them in 2022. I actually met Callum prior to that on a hike in Ibiza. Then about 3 months later, he contacted me on WhatsApp, not knowing it was me, for some assistance with something. And I didn't know it was him either, and then helped him out. We never spoke again for another 2-3 months. And then on another hike, someone's birthday, I was told that, I love adrenaline rush and anything like cliff jumping, rock climbing, all the mad stuff. I was told to go and speak to Callum because he runs a group of guys. At this point, it wasn't a business. It was just a group of guys on Wednesdays doing some mad shit and having a load of fun. So went up and introduced myself to Callum and realised that we'd actually met 2 separate times prior to that. And then joined the following Wednesday, life-changing, did some crazy cliff jumping, some mad stuff. So from then on, it was every week I was there, week in, week out. Then we started the free workouts on Saturdays in Ibiza, ended up taking on more of a leadership role for the business. And now in the last year or so, it's become more of a professional business. We're now doing coaching programs, and we've got free workouts, free programs for training, gym.
we're basically just a brand that, not only a brand, we're a community of men that, we help men become elite level men and help them develop their leadership skills in all aspects of their life through adventure therapy.
What does an elite man mean to you?
Someone who does what they say they're going to do, someone who has very strong values, who has very strong boundaries with himself and others, someone who operates with complete authenticity, who isn't afraid to take lead and take charge of situations, but equally someone who is there to be at the back and inspire others and raise them up and help other men raise their standards. Someone who just leads as an example, and inspires other men to do the same, because I think we need more of that in the world.
What do you think that?
I think the bar for being a man these days is very low. I think both for men and for women. I mean, I'm not an expert in women, the field of women, because I'm not a woman. I can only speak from my personal experience of as a male. But what I've noticed is the bar for being a man is very low, because as a society we're so happy with comfort. We're just comfortable with mediocrity, and I think people don't like to challenge themselves. I think as a majority, people don't like to challenge themselves. And also you find, there's cheat codes. You get a lot of guys that go to the gym and think, okay, if I get muscles and go to the gym, women are going to want to sleep with me. And that's all well and good. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. But okay, when we strip away those muscles, who are you as a man? Who are you at your core? How are you, how do you deal with your finances? How do you deal with business? How do you deal with your relationships with women, with your parents? Have you really explored yourself? How deep do you know yourself? What's your level of stress resilience? How do you lead? How do you, take other people where you want to go? All these other aspects of life that just get fallen behind because people find easy ways to get to what it is they want, needs that they want to fill.
And what do you do with Wildman? Before we dive into that, what aspects of yourself did you discover through Wildman?
I think the main thing is, as Wildman is adventure therapy, so, we go and do shared challenge. We get a group of guys together, we go and do something that you're not really going to ever do unless you put yourself into that situation, but it's shared struggle. If you're with a group of guys and you're carrying a 20-kilogram boulder up a hill each and you're not allowed to drop the boulder, and you're doing that for 3-4 hours, and some of you are broken and you have to help one another, and you have to really, you're switching rocks, you can't drop the boulder on the ground. That bond that you have with that group of guys is special. You're not going to get that many other places. And you find that men open up and start speaking without us having to prompt them. We don't need to sit next to them and go, so tell me about your childhood. Because they naturally start speaking about stuff. And that's the beauty of why I love the Wildman and what we do so much, is you see these guys opening up, but also taking what they thought was their ceiling and making it their floor. Making it that their new standard. Some guys would be like, there's no way I'm going to carry a 20-kilogram boulder 600 meters up a mountain. But they do it. And then they're like, holy shit, what else can I accomplish? And it's just so inspiring to see, we just coach and guide these other men to do this. We lead by example, and we embody what we believe to be elite men, and we hope to inspire the same. And when you have a group of guys that are holding each other accountable, they're pushing one another, they're accomplishing all these amazing things in their businesses, in their relationships, and they're sharing all of these things, but with the main point of doing action first and chat later. While I believe that men's circles have a place, and I'm not discrediting that, and I think not a lot of men are ready to speak into men's circles.
What do you mean with that?
I feel like men don't like to talk about their emotions, and I think it's quite a difficult thing for guys to join a men's circle, and I really applaud anyone that has the courage to go and do that. And personally, we found that when we take these guys and we go and do things that guys are meant to do, i.e. throwing around rocks, lifting heavy shit, climbing, running through forest, jungle, doing all these sorts of biologically male programmed things like primal, they just naturally open up, you know, they naturally start talking, but they also have the evidence of what they've done behind them instead of talking about what they're going to do. And maybe there's that little gap in between the talking and the doing where people fall short, you know, whereas if you've already done something and you know you've just smashed taking boulders up a mountain or a 20-meter cliff jump or 8 hours of solid rock climbing and going through bushes and, you know, just exhausting yourself and pushing yourself past those limits, it's so much easier to talk about things because you've already done stuff. You know, you've already got that evidence backed because you can look and say, well, I did all that. Like, if I talk about it, I can do this now because this was fucking difficult, but I smashed it. So talking about stuff is going to be no problem. And it also catalyzes them to go and do more crazy shit because it's addictive.
Well, what's really cool about what you're saying is, for example, we met at the run club.
We did.
The time that we met at the run club, I was doing a fast, so I had not eaten for 40, 30 hours.
Solid effort, man. You smashed it.
That was a hard run. But I was doing that with a friend I met here as well, Gabriel. He was also on a podcast. So we were in that together. Like, he was on a 72-hour fast and I was on a 72-hour fast, and we both went to the run club. And like, I have a lot of shit going on in my life right now when it comes to business, to podcasts, some jobs I want to quit, some new projects that are coming up, like just how life goes.
Yep.
It comes in seasons,
of course.
And I'm really close to Gabriel right now, and then we go out to dinner or we grab some lunch, and I said to him, fuck, like, I'm exhausted. Like I told you about last weekend, I was like fucking drained because of all the things that were going on right now. And he told me, like, yeah, but we've already survived a 72-hour fast while running 5 kilometers
exactly
in the burning sun in Bali.
Exactly, man, exactly. And you it's just little things in your mind. Is like you rationalize that. It's like, well, if I can do that, what else can I do? Or I've done that, and this challenge that I'm faced with now, well, that's definitely not as difficult as what I just did, so I'm going to fucking smash it.
And that's why I resonate with what you're saying. That really resets the barrier, or like your roof becomes your floor.
For sure.
When it comes to, oh, fuck. When you say it out loud, it sounds really weird. Yeah, I did not eat for 40 hours or for 30 hours it was back then. And then we run 5 kilometers in the humid of Bali in the burning sun.
Exactly, man. And you smashed it.
And there you go. And then it's like, oh, but then all that business stuff and all the other shit, it's like...
It doesn't seem that much of a big deal. I mean, it is a big deal, but you're also more resilient to the stress that comes with it. You know, it's like you go to the gym and a 40 kg is always going to be 40 kg. You know, you're just going to get stronger. That's it.
That's it. And the part where you do something like that together with someone creates a special bond.
For sure.
And that's really cool that you do that and set that up through the run club, Wildman company that you're building right now.
Yeah, it's exciting. So we've set up in Bali now. So I'm leading I'm co-founding the Bali chapter. We do every Saturday we do a run followed by calisthenics, functional strength, military style workout on the beach. And then once a month we do adventure days. So we do rock climbing, off-piste hiking, cliff jumping, basically just fucking fun stuff, man. Fucking fun stuff. Like, it's such an amazing day, and I would tell everyone to go to it. Any guy that's looking to go and do some cool shit with some cool guys, just give us a shout. And it's all completely free. Which is great.
I leave everything in the description. Like, before this is gonna be uploaded, I text you like, okay,
Perfect.
what do you want in the description? And then you send me a list of shit, and
Okay.
I put it down there.
Yeah, man. Nice.
So you can find it down here somewhere. But what's really cool about all of this is that it helps you grow personally on multiple levels.
Multiple levels.
What are some of the levels, or what are some of the phases, because growth comes in phases, that you've gone through to become the man that you are right now?
I think the main one is confronting that relationship that I had with my father leaving. You know, being the man that I wanted my father to be to me was a huge driving factor of who I am today. It's also accelerated my growth immensely. So I'd say that's the main one. The resilience to stress is an amazing thing. Is, like I said, the 40 kilogram weight is always going to be a 40 kilogram weight. You just get stronger. It doesn't get lighter. You get stronger. So all of these challenges that I've been faced with and all of these situations that I've been put in have all been there to test my resilience and also train it. You know, and you get stronger at being able to deal with whatever life throws at you.
Because you also just came out of a relationship, right?
Came out of a very, very toxic relationship, and now I'm not going to be the one to badmouth that person, but I was not a nice person. I lost myself. I was operating at a very low frequency, not at all what I envision a man to be. At the same time, we were both doing the best that we could with the tools that we had. We triggered each other a lot. There's a lot of issues from both of us, and yeah, it was just one of those ones that it wasn't meant to be, and we didn't love ourselves enough to leave. So we continued, and it just got worse and worse and worse. So that's it in a nutshell. You know, I'm not proud of the things that I've done, and I'm sure she's not proud of the things that she's done either, but it's a learning curve for sure to never be in that position again. And I know exactly what I don't want, and I'm sure she knows exactly what she doesn't want. But you know, it's all a learning. It's all learning. I've seen the lowest point that I can be, in the person that I really did not like was myself. I didn't like who I was around that person, and I'm pretty sure the same goes with her. And it's just, you know, it's knowledge. It's what I don't want. It's what I don't want in a partner. I have much stronger boundaries, much stronger values now. I'm also waking up every day trying to be the best man that I can be, not hurt people. Just be as authentic as possible, and that's all you can really ask for.
What are some of the things that you learned through that relation? What are some of the things that you will look for right now that you did not knew before? Because if you don't know, you don't know.
I think is to be the most authentic that you can be, because if you're not authentic, you're not going to be attracting in exactly what's meant for you. You know, authenticity is a beautiful thing. There's no need to hide under masks. You know, and I think we all have masks, but the more development that you do with yourself, the more you peel away those layers of yourself to becoming the true, authentic person that you're meant to be. And when you're in that, you start attracting the things that are meant for you, and they can only be meant for you because you are being you. You're not being anyone else.
Define authentic.
Oof, define authentic. I guess it's just, again, not operating how you think you're meant to be with people. You're not doing things because you think other people would think better or less of you. Is speaking your truth. Is doing things that make you happy. You know, doing things that really truly light a fire inside you. You know, you're not doing things because your parents want you to do them. You're not doing things because, you know, I understand we all have jobs and we all have 9 to 5s and you have to survive, but doing things that you fucking love to do, man, is just such a beautiful thing, and it's such a step in the right direction to becoming authentic. Is doing the things that are magic for you. It doesn't have to make sense to anyone else. If it fucking gets you going, go for it. Fuck what anyone else thinks, man. They're not you. You know, as long as you're not hurting anyone, just fuck what anyone else thinks. Just do you. And then the right people will come along.
You do you.
Exactly, man. You do you.
So what's next?
What's next? Continue building the Wildman. I want to take over Bali with the Wildman business. Going to look to get into property. I don't want to give too much away with my plans, but continue building businesses, build an empire, meet some amazing people, connect some people together, make sure that all my circle are thriving, and continue to remove any layers that are no longer serving me, and any behaviors and patterns and that are no longer doing me any justice, and really just constantly be evolving and getting to know myself deeper, create deeper connections with people, just experience life as it's meant to be experienced, you know, just just go and fucking have some fun, man. And go and do some cool shit.
And then I'm also curious because when we were standing outside, we had a short conversation about Bali.
We did.
And you said something really interesting about Bali and also about Ibiza.
Mm-hmm.
Can you repeat that?
Yeah, so I've found in my personal experience is that Bali will show you your authentic self. And I think that for a lot of people, it's amazing because they have a peek into their authentic self and they're like, holy fucking shit, this is amazing. But there's also some stories and some people that don't get on with Bali and they find it very tough to be here, or they hate it, and I think this is again just my personal opinion, but it shows them an authentic side of them, and they have so many years of preconditioned ego and who they think they are, that the ego doesn't want to give that up. So when they actually see themselves at an authentic level, they go, whoa, fuck that. I don't want anything to do with that, when really it's their authentic self, but their ego is so strong, it's like it sees it as an attack and they don't like it because they'd much rather stay in the comfortable place of who they think they are. And I feel like that for me explains it, because from my experience, it's a beautiful place and it's rich of culture and spirituality and people are open and it's just such a beautiful place to make a life. Obviously it's a third world country, but the people are just so humbling, so welcoming, and I just find it difficult to understand how people can't get along with this place unless you're coming here with bad intentions, or you're coming here escaping from something, because I do believe that everyone that comes to Bali or even Ibiza, it's the same. We're all running from something. These places, it's not like the UK, or it's not like, I imagine where you're from, it's like very, very diverse. Whereas here, it's so concentrated with a similar style of people. We're all running from something, whether it be a relationship, failed business, in some cases, the law, toxic relationships. It can be a spectrum of things. It's like we're here to find ourselves at its core. We're here to find out who we truly are. And I feel like we're running from certain instances. And when we get here, people tend to hit the ground running and just, run with it.
What are you running from?
Originally, I was only meant to come here for 2 months, and I was running from that relationship because I needed some space. It's another island. It's very, as you can probably understand, this island life is like a bubble. It's very easy to be in a bubble. So Ibiza is the same. You spend enough time there, you're in a bubble. It's like a bit of a crazy place. And sometimes you have to get off the island, even if it's just a short vacation. In my instance, it was a very toxic relationship that captured me into that bubble and amplified it. So I needed some space to get away, and I needed a couple of months to refresh, get back to who I was, and then reassess the situation and see if we could maybe make it work. Unfortunately, we haven't done that. And fell in love with this place, transferred island to island. So I've gone from bubble to bubble, but yeah, it's just been an incredible journey, man. And I'm grateful for every single thing that I've done that's led me to this point.
And if there's one thing that you really want to say to the people who made it this far,
who made it this far, coming to
the podcast,
listen to every podcast, because this has been a really great experience. It's been really amazing getting to know you as well. And yeah, I think for me, it's just stay true to who you are, and you'll be surprised at the amount of abundance that you will get back. Stay grateful. Always operate with humility. Don't ever think you're better than anyone else. And just go and enjoy life. We have such a short time on this world. Just go out there and enjoy it. Like, just have some fucking fun. And go live your life. Go do some amazing things. If there's anything that's holding you back, just find those limiting beliefs, smash through them. Get yourself training. Get up off the sofa. Go and do some cool shit. Go and make some stories. Go and make some memories. And just go have fun with it.
I think that's a good, strong message to send out. I will leave everything, like I said, I'll leave everything in the description, like your Instagram if people want to connect or
Perfect.
whatsoever. If they want to be coached by Wildman,
Yeah.
if they want to, because you post a lot on Instagram.
I do, yeah.
If they want to follow your own journey into all
For
of your
sure.
personal growth, they can see that as well. And then for now, I would say thanks for watching, like, subscribe, all that bullshit that YouTube wants you to do. And firsthand, visionaries, I would say take action, because action drives change. If you don't take actions, nothing will change. And this story is living proof of that, because you don't have that many things to worry about anymore, except for the normal human stuff.
For sure. That's it, man. Action first, chat later is one of our taglines for Wildman, and it so perfectly sums up just, you know, get going, get doing, man.
Get doing. So hit that subscribe button, do that, because then your life gets better, I guess, for sure. Ciao. And
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me as well. Appreciate it.
of course.